When you ask about environment and friendship, what exactly do you mean by them? If I ask you, or if I tell you I'm going to go to Yosemite, and it's January, you say to me, well, do you have jackets? Are they thick enough? Do you have a heater? Do you have snow boots? I'm telling you that I have a goal, and you're telling me that if you want to get to this goal and if you want to survive, once you get there, these are the things you want to have. So when you say environment and friendships, where exactly do you want to go?
There's two places. Two places of understanding of choosing what gives you pain, what makes you forgetful. Not that you can choose the things directly, but that you remember something that allows you to see that more clearly. And with friendships, something like the same. An environment that like humbles you or makes you reverent of the right things. Friendships that do the same. A friendship where you are embarrassed to spend too many hours on the couch or too long talking about yourself. An environment that is the same.
Hello?
Should I keep these parts in?
Yeah, it's fun. Who cares? Yeah. Necon.
Oh, Necon.
You know this poem that Cassie gave me, she was here last time. I think it was just the three of us, and it's a poem that Humayun Shajarian sang about 2-3 months ago. It's really nice. Bidar sho, that awake, as khishtan bidar sho. You know, without making it too abstract and too philosophical, trying to bring it down. You know, imagine after days of hard work, you take a shower and you just collapse onto your bed. But before you do so, you set your alarm. And you have 5 or 6 alarms that go off 5 minutes after each other. It goes off at 4:45. You have been awakened, but you bang on your cell phone and the alarm shuts off, and then you go back to sleep. You woke up, but it was only for a moment. And you pass out, and 10 minutes later the alarm goes off again. And then you bang on the alarm again and it goes off. This time, it takes you maybe 30 seconds to fall back asleep, but you do again. I think all of us have these moments where you wake up, you remember, you feel discontent of some sort. And it doesn't have to be spiritual, it doesn't have to be about self-knowledge. You have this distinct feeling that something is not right. And you don't know what it is. And I don't think anyone knows. You know, people at different stages begin to miss different things without really knowing what they are. You know, so when you talk about not forgetting, the question is, you don't want to forget for how long? Like, you want to be awake for how long? You know, Gurdjieff has really this nice idea, and it's an old idea, but he expresses it really well, that, you know, life just puts you to sleep. Life does. Life has many demands. And most of us are ordinary people. We're just commoners. You want the basic things, you know. You want a good job that gives us stability, because then your body knows that every night, you know, there is a shelter. Your stomach knows that the fridge is always full of food, that your pocket is filled with money, that you have a companion, you're never going to suffer from loneliness. You know, so these basic things are very, very important, and they create their own troubles, they create their own emotions, they create their own thought patterns where you have to come down and figure out what not to do with them. They keep you occupied. And relationships give you enough ups and downs to occupy you, you know. Add to it the ridiculous conversations we have with our friends, and, you know, the sort of advertisement. So he believed that there has to be a force that is greater than the force imposed upon you by life. You can't be in life and be philosophical. It doesn't work. You know, you can't spend 5 hours or 8 hours at your job that puts you in the wrong psychological environment, and you begin to have thoughts that are not in harmony with this master plan that you have for yourself. You know, it's a ridiculous expectation. It's like, having a companion with whom you fight on a daily basis, and you ask yourself, well, why are you so exhausted? Why don't you experience love more often, or harmony, or stability? Well, because you fight all the time. It doesn't work that way. And there is a scene in Search of the Miraculous where they're like standing on a balcony somewhere, and Ouspensky looks at Gurdjieff and says, "It's too much. I mean, all these ideas, all these emotions are just too much. Is there a way to lessen their intensity?" And Gurdjieff basically looks at him and says, "Well, do you want to go back to sleep?" And Ouspensky says, "No." And Gurdjieff says, "Then be patient, just be quiet." In trying to approach these questions, I have to confess I'm very, very biased. Biased because I come from a background that really, for the most part, creates just one solution to problems, such problems. If your question is what sort of an environment should one create for oneself, the only thing I can tell you is it was a 10-year environment that Hussein created for us. Whenever there was no Hussein, or we were not close to the ideas given to us by Hussein, there was an intense sadness that lived inside us. And when we were at gatherings, our facial expressions were such that, not gatherings at his house, just, family and friends, all of us. Because in addition to gathering at his house, he was also a family friend, a community friend. And so we would manipulate our facial expression so that he could see that, yes, your father is there, my mother is there, everybody's kind and nice and decent. But without the gatherings, without his ideas being at the very foreground, this gathering has no joy in it, it has sorrow in it, And when Hussein was in there, the three of us didn't gather as much. Me, the other Hussein and Mirdad, they didn't gather as much because there wasn't much to say. Our point of contact was Hussein. No other friendship besides the three of us would ever be permissible, because all the other friendship contained dialogues that just smelled bad. Once in a while someone would call and say, "This person has come from Germany, they're versed in giving commentary on Hafiz's poems." I would drive there, and I realized, it's no good. It doesn't come anywhere close to Hussein. So there was something about Hussein, the ideas, the gatherings that the four of us had created, that made like this castle-like environment. No one could penetrate. No conversation could come close. You know, again, it really depends for the most part what it is that you want to feel and what it is that you want to, how you want your intellect, your mind to move. For the three of us, it was Hussein. You know, I was 20. Hussein was, not Hussein the teacher, the other Hussein. He was close to 40. He had a great deal to lose. He had a relationship, he was married, he had children, he had a mortgage. I was a kid, so I didn't really much care how damaged I would leave the gathering, you know. So when you ask about environment and friendships, the other thing that perhaps one should ask is, and it's difficult to do this because if you're gripped by emotions, you don't really think this way. But if you're more of a transactional minded person where you say, okay, if I go to this gathering, I'm going to lose 2 days of sleep, I'm going to bark at my companion, but it'll last for 2 days. And then we'll be good for the next month, until the next gathering. You know, if that is the way you think, then you'll probably be in a good shape. If on the other hand, you're not transactional, and you're not instrumental in the way you think, what happens is you become like this other Hussein. You go again and again and again. And when Hussein isn't there, you immerse yourself in reading, and then praying, and then fasting. And then you realize you can't talk to your wife. And then you realize, well, you've had these friendships for about 30 years, but none of them are any good anymore. So you walk away. Now, what happens is when you're pregnant with all these emotions and thoughts, what happens when you eat too much? Well, you want to use the restroom after a while, when your body has processed things. When you have all this longing, when you have all this passion inside you, well, you want to share them with your companion, but you guys speak different language. You want to share them with your kid, but at that time his child was, I think, 2 years old. And none of his friends understood him. So the only person who remained for him was Hussein. So once in a while the two Husseins would get together. And because they were close in age, they became really good friends. So it's, you know, a tradition that doesn't exist in the West is what we call chelle. And it's something that usually teachers tell their students how long it's going to be, which is kind of like a fasting, but it's not just not eating food. It's you don't see anyone, you don't talk to anyone, you don't listen to anyone, except your teacher. And what usually happens is so much pressure is built inside you, you know. It's kind of like, you know, when you fall in love but the person isn't around you. There's a good amount of just raw emotions that live inside you, and they want to come out, but there is no one familiar. And so when you finally see the person, you do all sorts of crazy things, whether you shout, you scream, you laugh, you cry, you slap him, you're intimate with him, it doesn't really matter, but it's all these pent-up emotions that are being released. And chelle is that the only friend that you will have is really the person who's inspired you.